まあ始まりは僕がすごい車好きで、まあ国産チューニングカーからいつかこうポルシェに乗りたいと、そんな思いがずっとありまして、でまあこいつを手に入れ、でまあ当時から湾岸線環状首都高と走ってたんで、まあそのステージにこいつを引っ張り出していったんですね。でまあそれにはまあ速度も必要ですし、車のトータル的な、まあ、走る止まる曲がる。
Alright, I think today's episode, a lot of people that are kind of obsessed about Japan car culture are going to really appreciate it. And it's been a shop that I've been meaning to cover for so long, but I just had to wait for the right moment. And we'll find out why soon enough. But just to kind of show you what I'm talking about, today I am down in Yokohama at Garage TBK. This is a legendary shop that has been involved in the whole midnight racing scene since its inception. They were pretty much the starting members alongside Tamura and his brother, and basically they have a 40+ year history in building some of the fastest wangan racing cars that were having fun during the days in the late 80s, early 90s. So I'm just gonna basically talk to Takahashi-san, the owner, and kind of get an idea of how the company came to be, how they kind of developed their style, and what they were aiming to do, aside from obviously having a lot of fun out on the street. But it's gonna get really, really special. But before we go in, I kind of wanted to touch on something that you'll probably notice a lot when it comes to Japanese shops, especially the older ones, the really legendary ones like Garage TBK, is that they are literally part of their neighborhood in a way that's pretty much unseen in other countries. I mean, this is a housing estate in the outskirts of Yokohama, and it's obvious that TBK has been around here for close to 50 years, and the shop has remained as it was. It's kind of an interesting shop merged into a house. So if you look at the second floor up there, you can see where the living quarters are. And there's even a little garden. I don't know, I just find this kind of stuff so intriguing. How, shops have, been around for so long, and things have grown and been built around them, and they now sit in such a unique and kind of tight situation. Parking is a bit of an issue, as you can tell, but here's people living in their houses, and these guys are making like wangan racing.
Located in Yokohama's Tsurumi ward, a 10-minute drive from Nismo's Mori factory, Garage TBK continues to function to this day as a body shop. It caters to any car that comes in for work, but at the same time continues to look after Midnight Club members' cars and their new and old projects.
The first thing you notice when you arrive at Garage TBK is the paint booth that they have next to their main workshop. And the coolest thing that I noticed straight away is this long list of legendary brands that we kind of all grown up seeing. It's really cool to see it all laid out like this. The brands we all need to build our cars. Cars like this, Garage TBK. So I'm actually gonna go upstairs to start things off and kind of take a look at the shop area where customers would come in. And the cool thing is that this place really hasn't changed in the last 40 years. It's still very much got that real cool Showa era ambience. And there's just so much to look at, so many details from history, and lots of little spare parts that owners would come and kind of drool over. Not to mention a pretty tidy collection of marble cars, which actually even spans all across this top ceiling beam here. Just goes the whole way. And Takahashi-san has kindly let me in the office here so we can get a nice look at this massive nitro-powered RC car and all the memorabilia that's kind of laid out around the office. They even have a Central 20 race team sticker. That's pretty cool. And right here on the table is the actual shop demo car, and this car is actually downstairs, so we'll take a look in its current state, because it's actually getting restored and brought back to an original kind of condition.
Founded 42 years ago in 1982, the Midnight Club was an invitation-only club made up of people with the same passion for speed and that thrill of street racing. Member cars were some of the fastest cars in Japan, a mix of German, Italian and of course Japanese sports cars, all highly modified for speed, but as Takahashi-san told me, also being very well balanced across the board in the handling, braking and safety departments. These top-tier Hashiriya would meet up at night, starting off from Yokohama and making full use of the wangan's long, wide stretches of 3-lane highway. They would max out speed-wise on the straighter section just before Haneda Airport and continue all the way into Tokyo's Odaiba district. Then they would do a U-turn and do the same on the way back, ending up at Daikoku parking area to end the night. Entry into the Midnight Club was tough to say the least. Aside from your car having to be strictly scrutinized by the members, if you were accepted you'd have to spend a whole year as the kohai, or apprentice, taking care of menial jobs and show the utmost respect to your senpai, the established elders of the club. 42 years on, the remaining members still stay true to the club's original code of conduct. As Takahashi told me, the only difference is that all driving is shifted to the track and that everybody has gotten old. That said, I find it amazing that shops like Garage TBK are still very much active and in business, still catering to customer cars to this day.
私の地元の先輩でミッドナイトの先輩がいました。でその方が当時930ターボを乗られていて、私は日産の 130Z に乗ってたんですね。である日「高橋土曜日暇か?」と「はい暇です」と「じゃあちょっとドライブ行こう」っつってで930ターボで最初東名だったんです。東名に行きそれから湾岸線に移ったんですけど、そんなのをほぼ毎週連れて行ってもらってたんですね。で僕としては全然違う世界、車の世界を見てしまって、自分もそこで走りたいなと。でそのミッドナイトカークラブに所属をさせていただいて、そこでやっぱメンバーがたくさんいらっしゃるので、そこで親交を深めて、でそこからやっぱ皆さん車に対する愛情というか、そういうものが格段に違く、機能、そして美しさですね。あと、機能美を備える車両っていうことで、自分も走ってたんでみんなの気持ちがよく分かってたんですね。でそこから入れた空気は出すぞと、ライトは明るくするぞと、ちょっとダウンフォース効かすぞとか、そんなのが全部、そういうところからフィードバックされて、でその仲間たちもうちでボディメイキングカスタムしてで湾岸線を走っていただいて、そこから始まってしまったのかなと。
And now I'm going to sit down because you guys are really going to enjoy this. So this is actually a 40th anniversary special publication that was kind of put together for the members of the Midnight Club. And it wasn't for sale because, they kind of used a lot of magazine clippings and stuff, so they can't really sell this stuff. But I just sat here for the last 5 minutes going through this, just drooling at the amazing history as Tamura. And I didn't actually know this, but it was actually Hiroshi Tamura's brother who started the Midnight Club. And at the time he was driving, let's see if I can find it here. There it is. So he was actually driving this FD with kind of elongated bumper section and fixed headlights. probably an Amemiya part. And then he sold this car and he moved onto an R33 GTR quite a few years after. And of course his brother was driving the Pentroof built R32 GTR. And there's just so many cool shots of these legendary race cars. This is from a time where, you know, these guys went full out on the wangan. And we'll talk all about what they got up to with Takahashi-san later on as we interview him, but there's just so much goodness here. This is for me one of the most interesting sides of the whole Japanese car culture and how tuning kind of evolved. And it was, you know, it was all for a reason. These guys modified cars, you know, mechanically and aesthetically for a precise type of function, i.e. going fast. And here's some shots from Yatabe Arena when they used to do the high-speed runs. And yeah, it's amazing stuff. We'll get some pictures of these old galleries and post them up so you guys can enjoy. But speaking of high-speed runs, this actual shop demo car managed 305 at Yatabe back in the day. But on the wangan, this thing reached and topped out at somewhere around 340 kilometers an hour. And I found another really cool old school, no longer around magazine. This is Porsche 911 Ego from 1999, and it has a very well documented lineup of cars and shops, and, you know, a lot of tuning tips and parts suggestions for people doing stuff. There's even a very, very young Akira Nakai here with his 86 930 Carrera. I bet a lot of people haven't seen this car. And while I was looking at the magazine, Takahashi-san brought out original midnight stickers from back in the day. So he's got a couple left. They're in well-used condition, but it's very special to be holding something like this. And the Bodyworks Auto Garage TBK sticker that you see in a lot of cars. Back to this magazine. It's really cool to be seeing what people used to do with these cars back in the 90s. This is an iron-on patch for race suits. And this is pretty cool. There's a little page here kind of talking to the K&N importer, Ogose-san from K&N Group M. And they're talking about the 996 because 1999 was the year that we shifted from the 993 air-cooled and went into liquid-cooled world. And they're kind of talking about what you can do with the whole engine setup that the 996 had by changing filters, gaining power, and just starting that initial tuning phase of these newer cars. We have some little parts, but one I kind of instantly noticed was this massive mirror put in over your rearview mirror, kind of like a trucker mirror for your car, something that's really popular in tuning cars in Japan. And there's that famous 964 turbo demo car that's downstairs. We'll go take a look in a second, back in its heyday.
To celebrate the club's rich history in 2022, a 40th anniversary album was created, kind of a collection of pictures, magazine clippings and owner stories. A celebration of not only a legendary club that inspired so many over its last 4 decades, but a tight group of friends, men from all walks of life brought together by the same love for speed.
Alright, so I guess it is time to step inside and have a look at what Takashi has prepared for me today, and I'm just blown away instantly. This is the latest build to come out of Garage TBK, fully refreshed 964 turbo and owned by an old-time Midnight Club member who has actually been indulging in a bit of time attack as of late. We've seen him drive a 991 with the Midnight sticker at Attack Series in Tsukuba over the last few years. He's since moved away from that car and kind of went back to his roots and just kind of, you know, kind of embraced the whole air-cooled Porsche thing again, creating one of the coolest 964s I've ever seen. But I'm not going to be talking too much about this car right now, and that's because I'm going to dedicate a separate video to this. We are actually going to be taking this car out later on today, this evening. We'll kind of head up on the highway, hit up Daikoku parking area, have a bit of a chat to Takashi there, and then kind of indulge in all the details of this car. So, you know, make sure you check back for that video. But there's one car that I specifically wanted to touch on in detail on this video, and that is the Bodyworks Auto Garage TBK demo car, the original 930 turbo that, you know, basically made them so well known, so famous, and so legendary out on the wangan.
まず最初ボディ補強から始まりまして、で足回りでこういう外装エアロパーツ、一応これナイトランのために僕はここにフォグランプを入れて夜の走行、その辺に備えるためにここに大型のフォグランプを入れて、路面のギャップですとかそういうのがよく視認できるように、これができたっていう感じなんですね。もはや当時日本は 32GTR が出てきた時代で、やっぱりポルシェターボノーマルじゃ勝てなかったんですよ。そんななんやかんやがあって、チューナーの小峰さん、プロモデットの社長ですね、出会って、このエンジンを作っていただいて、それから楽しいその空間をこれで遊ばしてもらったと、そんな感じで今も現在所有していて、もうちょっとナチュラルにして今後乗っていければなと思ってます。
And of course for their bumper design, and this bumper is pretty easily recognizable because of course it featured those massive projectors at the bottom corners of each side, and to kind of make it all fit together they actually went with 993 indicator lights and intakes that allowed just the right height to kind of get that nice flow across the sides and onto the rest of the body. So the car is in for full restoration. As you can see, the bumper is being stripped down to its FRP base, cleaned up and patched up in areas. Of course, this was probably like machine gun with like little stone chips from all the use on the wangan. And you can see the massive oil cooler here taking center stage. But you know, let's do a little walk around and just indulge in all the details of this legendary car. I love these kind of roof inspired aero mirrors. Over here on the side glass, that's been replaced, and it's basically a massive NACA duct that feeds the piping back here, which directs as much airflow as possible into the engine bay to keep things nice and cool. So let's take a look inside, open up this 930, and we start off with a door card. It's kind of gone for an RS look, stripped down to simplicity, no pockets, nothing basically, not even a door release except for the RS strap here that you pull and it just pops the door open. There's a nice Porsche official Momo steering wheel and this massive roll cage that spans even across the dashboard. We have 996 GT3 bucket seats, carbon Kevlar, and let's take a look at all the little details because there's a few to look at. Right, first up I spot a Gredi Profec B boost controller, nicely located behind the shifter, and this 930 still runs the 4-speed, the stock 4-speed, and it is the fastest 4-speed 930 turbo in the world, and they actually managed to reach a speed of 340 kilometers an hour, which kind of gives away why they put the speedometers upside down, because they want to see, I guess, have a visually better view of the top end of the speedo through the steering wheel, because that's where they're playing at the top end. And that was running 1.7 bars of boost. Red line is set at 7,000. This is a fully built engine put together by Promodit, same guys that built Nakai's Stella engine and so many other very, very fast cars here in Japan. Let's take a look at the back here, because while it does look like a normal 930 spoiler turbo, it's actually been widened. It's been widened because the intercooler under here needed to kind of like be fitted better, have a bit more space on each side. So they widened the spoiler And of course, we have the TBK rear bumper, which incorporates these outlets right behind the rear wheel arches, and these two slits on each side of the number plate mount. Of course, a midnight sticker right there, and that's basically to help with cooling. And I do love the angle of the exhaust, so you can kind of see it once they kind of hit that on straight. It's slightly angled outwards on each side, and it just gives such a unique look to this turbo. All right, let's go open the passenger side and have a little look at all these dials and additional instruments that have been added here. There's so many little analog gauges and 4 stacked SART digital instruments that kind of cycle through different readings, and of course the midnight sticker on the roll cage. I'm not sure if you can make it out, but there's a pair of MSD ignition amplifiers there, 2 because of course these engines are twin spark, so they need double the help. And next to it, a very, very vintage looking Motec ECU box. And so there it is, the TBK 930 Turbo, such a legendary car. But you know, I really want to see the engine. I gotta go to get Takashi upstairs in the shop for that, because he's actually got 2 little locking nuts on each side of the hood. And they kindly even pulled out this R32 GTR, sits on BBS LMs. One thing that these guys used to work on quite a lot and still do to this day is R32 GTRs. Of course, the R32 GTR is what Hiroshi Tamura used to drive in the Midnight Club and still does. He still owns the car, which was built by Pentroof, and since those old times the car actually got a complete R34 driveline swap, so he's kept improving that car, and you know, a lot of the original members of Midnight Club have kept, evolved, and continue to, you know, indulge in those cars that made them so famous through that amazing club that they created. All right, we're gonna take a look at the engine here, starting off with the spoiler, which is actually being extended to fit the intercooler, the massive intercooler that sits at the top of the engine. And there it is. You can see the MSD ignition propped up on like a aluminum plate. I find this really cool. This is like the perfect example of mating German cars to Japanese tuning. This car runs an HKS foam filter. And of course, there's never an area of the car that doesn't hint back to the club name. You can actually get an idea here at the back as the hood is lifted up at just how much this has been extended outwards. So this is all FRP reconstructed part to kind of clear the intercooler. The car is set to go to Promodet for a complete rebuild and refresh, which is going to see this flat 6 brought back to tip-top condition and back ready to be used and abused. In its current state, it actually runs 800 horsepower, which is absolutely wild on a 4-speed. What an amazing historical build.
毎週土曜日が楽しかった。雨が降ると走れませんので、まず天気予報が気になり、で週末に備えて、車のメンテナンスから、洗車とかして、で土曜日に備えたと。エンジンチューニングしてからは、実際このエンジンってどのぐらい回るんだろうなとか、先週いた車とちょっと絡んじゃってもいけるのかなとか、そんなのがちょいちょいありまして、当時は上野の方から出てたんですけど、中期になりまして横浜に集まって、そこからスタートなんですね。で、横羽から湾岸線入って、幕張まで行っていたと、そんなルートだったんですけど、やはりそうですね、横浜から出て 横羽線ではウォームですよね。ちょいちょいタイヤ温めながら様子見ながら走りで、羽田の辺からもうぐいぐいみんな踏んでいくようなイメージで、そこからもう湾岸線に徐々に入っていくような感じでしたかね。一番速い、やっぱり車速が乗るのは湾岸線の浦安のストレートですかね。確かあそこは僕の記憶だと何キロだったかな、かなり長いストレートがあって、そこは僕の4速なんで4速踏切で7000ぐらい回ってましたね。メーターはそのくらい振ってましたけど、実質そうですね、矢田部で計測していただいた時は305キロでしたね。大黒はもう戻りなんですよ。帰りですね。アクアラインはないです。はい。その頃はアクアラインは走ってないですね。はい。
And over here you can see a bunch of TBK bumpers ready to be used or shipped out. You can tell the various variety of designs. There's some for wide body cars, for narrow body cars, and for the older cars that don't have that integrated 993 indicator light. Damn. So that's an evil sound. Gotta get the angles right for a few shots. God, this thing sounds amazing.
現存してるカークラブですよ。一応今こんなご時世なんでストリートはもう×です。でやはりサーキット走行とか、そういう方に今だんだんシフトしていってるっていうかしてますね。はい。そうですね、やっぱりお客さんから求められるものがあればそれを具現化していくっていうのが我々の仕事なので、そうですね、世にそういう製品を残していきたいとは思ってます。